Denial and gaslighting are the first tools they reach for when their facade gets to crack. They'll outright reject the truth, no matter how clear or undeniable it may seem to you. Their denial isn't just a refusal to acknowledge their actions. It's an active strategy to undermine your confidence in your perception of reality. They'll insist with unwavering conviction that you misunderstood, misheard, or misinterpreted everything. This creates an environment where you begin to question not just their actions, but your own ability to discern the truth. Gaslighting amplifies the denial. It's more than just dismissing the facts, it's planting seeds of doubt that grow into full-blown confusion. They might subtly twist your words, rewrite past events, or insist that you're overreacting to something harmless. They rely on the fact that most of us value harmony and second-guess our instincts when confronted with strong opposition. By making you feel as though your understanding of the situation is flawed, they regain control over the narrative, and, more importantly, over you. Shifting blame is a classic tactic used to deflect accountability and protect their image. When confronted, they'll quickly redirect the focus away from their actions and onto someone or something else. They might blame external circumstances, claiming that their behavior was the result of stress, bad timing, or unavoidable challenges. This redirection isn't just about avoiding responsibility, it's about creating a smokescreen that obscures the real issue. By steering the conversation toward factors beyond their control, they aim to elicit sympathy and divert your attention from holding them accountable. Often they'll take this strategy further by blaming you directly. They'll argue that your actions, words, or even emotions are the reason for their behavior. Statements like, "If you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have reacted this way," are common. This tactic not only shifts the burden of responsibility onto you, but also serves to disarm you emotionally. Instead of focusing on their wrongdoing, you might find yourself justifying your own actions or feeling guilty for something you didn't do. It's a powerful way to manipulate the dynamic and maintain control. Weaponizing vulnerability is one of the most insidious tactics because it strikes at the very core of trust and connection. They take the moments you've shared in confidence, your fears, insecurities, and past mistakes, and twist them into tools for manipulation. These personal revelations, which were once safe in the context of a genuine relationship, are now wielded against you to justify their actions or to make you feel small. By doing this, they erode the foundation of mutual respect and use your own openness as a way to gain leverage. This tactic often feels deeply personal because it exploits the emotional bonds that were built on trust. They might say things like, "You're acting just like you did during that time you struggled," or bring up a vulnerable moment to paint you as unstable or unworthy of being heard. These remarks are designed to hit where it hurts the most, silencing you and making you question your right to confront them. It's not just about gaining the upper hand, it's about keeping you in a place where they hold the emotional power. Weaponizing vulnerability is one of the most insidious tactics they use because it preys on your empathy and openness. When someone knows your fears, insecurities, or past struggles, they can manipulate those truths to serve their agenda. For example, they might twist a moment of emotional honesty into a justification for their behavior, saying things like, "Well, you've done this too," or "You're no angel yourself." By turning your vulnerability against you, they create a false equivalence, making it harder for you to call out their actions without feeling hypocritical or exposed. This tactic often works because it feels deeply personal. They don't just manipulate facts, they manipulate your sense of self. They'll frame your vulnerability as a flaw or a weakness, subtly reinforcing the idea that you're somehow responsible for the situation. This not only deflects accountability from them, but also keeps you tethered to a cycle of self-doubt and hesitation, making it harder for you to trust your instincts and stand firm in your convictions. Feigning innocence is their way of diffusing tension and shifting the emotional burden onto you. They'll act completely unaware of the situation, responding with wide-eyed disbelief and exaggerated surprise when confronted. Phrases like, "I had no idea this was happening," or "I can't believe you think I'd do something like that," are common in their arsenal. This performance isn't about genuinely misunderstanding the situation, it's about creating confusion and casting doubt on your judgment. The more convincing their innocence appears, the harder it becomes for you to hold them accountable. This tactic often goes hand in hand with charm and subtle flattery. They'll emphasize how out of character such accusations are for someone like them, painting themselves as the victim of an unfair attack. By doing so, they not only protect their image, but also put you in a position where you feel guilty for even suspecting them. This emotional sleight of hand keeps you second-guessing yourself while they quietly avoid facing the truth. Smear campaigns are a calculated attempt to discredit you and shift attention away from their own actions. When they know that you're aware of their true nature, they'll often go on the offensive, spreading rumors or half-truths designed to damage your reputation. These campaigns are rarely straightforward. They thrive on subtlety and innuendo, making it hard to trace the source or confront them directly. They might share a concern about you with mutual acquaintances or frame their lies as genuine observations, planting seeds of doubt about your character. Their ultimate goal is to make you appear unreliable, irrational, or even malicious, ensuring that others are less likely to believe your side of the story. This tactic isolates you, cutting off your support system and leaving you more vulnerable to their control. By turning people against you, they create an environment where you're constantly defending yourself rather than addressing the real issue. The stress and emotional toll of trying to repair your reputation can be overwhelming, and that's exactly what they're counting on. When you're preoccupied with damage control, they can continue their manipulative behavior unchecked, all while playing the role of the misunderstood victim in the eyes of others. Sabotaging relationships is a deliberate strategy they use to isolate you and consolidate their power. They'll sow seeds of mistrust between you and the people you care about, often in ways that seem subtle or incidental at first. They might casually mention things others have supposedly said about you or share fabricated stories designed to make you question the loyalty of your friends or family. These small, calculated actions gradually erode the bonds of trust, leaving you feeling isolated and uncertain about whom to rely on. At the same time, they'll position themselves as the one person you can depend on, creating a dynamic where your world starts to revolve around them. This isolation makes it easier for them to maintain control because it reduces the chances of you seeking outside perspectives or support. Their interference often leads to misunderstandings, conflicts, or strained relationships, all of which serve their goal of keeping you vulnerable and dependent. By undermining your connections, they strip away your safety net, ensuring that you have fewer resources to resist or challenge their influence. Retaliation or intimidation is a common response when they feel their control is slipping or their deception has been exposed. They might lash out in overt ways, such as issuing threats, raising their voice, or using physical intimidation to reassert dominance. However, their retaliation can also take more covert forms, like subtle threats, veiled comments, or undermining you in ways that feel intentional yet difficult to prove. This tactic is meant to create fear and hesitation, making you think twice before confronting them or sharing what you know. It's a calculated effort to remind you of the potential consequences of owning up to them. Beyond fear, retaliation often seeks to exhaust you emotionally and mentally. They might engage in a pattern of relentless criticism, sabotage your efforts, or spread false narratives about you to others. This creates a climate of constant stress and unease, leaving you preoccupied with damage control rather than focusing on the root issue. Their goal is to make resistance feel too costly, pushing you toward compliance simply to avoid further escalation. This cycle of intimidation is designed to strip you of your confidence and autonomy, reinforcing their sense of power. Persisting in deception is their way of maintaining control when the truth starts to unravel. Instead of admitting fault or owning up to their actions, they double down on their lies, weaving an even more intricate web of deceit. They might create elaborate explanations or introduce new details that shift the narrative in their favor, hoping to confuse you and anyone else involved. This persistence isn't just about avoiding accountability, it's a calculated move to wear you down. The more convoluted their stories become, the more effort it takes to untangle the truth, leaving you feeling frustrated and overwhelmed. This strategy also leverages the fact that many people prefer to avoid conflict or assume that no one would go to such lengths to lie. They exploit this tendency, relying on the audacity of their deception to make you question your reality. The more confidently they repeat their falsehoods, the more likely it is that others might begin to believe them, or at least doubt your perspective. By sticking to their lies, they not only obscure the truth, but also create an atmosphere where challenging them feels futile, further consolidating their power over the situation.